How's that for an intro? I haven't been hit with the copyright yet, so that's awesome. All right. The usual suspects are in ESC, Bozza, Mick, Mallow. James is on to 994. I need 6 more subscribers. That's it. It's been the longest week ever. All right, we've got about 12 people on already, which is fantastic. That's awesome. Let's cut straight to it. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Fan Forum here on the Black and White United YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. I'm your host, Andreas. We have got a jam-packed night tonight, heaps of stuff to talk about. We've got a special guest coming on too, so I'll run through everything with you now. First thing I want to say is today we had the funeral for my mate Daniel, which obviously I've spoken about before. It was such a beautiful send-off, heartbreaking it was, but it was such a beautiful send-off, and just credit to the Collingwood Footy Club for allowing the Premiership Cup to be there right next to his casket. And it was just the way he was let out to the car and stuff before we went to the burial with the Premiership Cup up in the air with the Collingwood Footy Club song playing. It was just, yeah, he would have loved that. He would have loved that so much. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for your messages and stuff. And it was just a really, really good send-off. Just want to say also thank you to our sponsors, Hopper Bros Barbecue, for all your tips and tricks, not your chicks, but all your tips and tricks. Make sure you give them a follow on Instagram, and also to New Homes Victoria, who, to be honest, without them and their help, this channel wouldn't be possible as well. So that's all the formalities out of the way. Let's just get straight to it. I've got a special guest. He's about to jump on. It's Nate from Nate Talks PIES on YouTube. I've been looking forward to this for 2 weeks now since I asked him to come on. So we're going to jump on right now. Nate, how are you, mate?
Where's the chicks?
Where's the chicks? It was just a tongue twister. It's the first time I've ever stuffed up an intro.
Nice knowing you.
Thanks, mate. Mate, first on, I just want to say thanks for obviously coming on tonight. There's a whole range of stuff that we're going to talk about, and I'm really excited to get straight to it. But first, I just want to find out from you, one, tell me about your channel. Tell everybody about your channel, because I watch all your videos and stuff, and I love your analysis and everything that you do. And also, after that, I want you to give us a brief rundown on how you became a Collingwood supporter. Everybody needs to know.
Yeah, this channel that I created, almost out of pettiness. I created it 3 days after the 1-point win over North Melbourne, 54-point comeback. Thinking as a Pies fan, should be able to celebrate this sort of wins. I've got a few North mates. They'll be devastated. It was actually good after the game or whatnot. I've got a lot of mates, however, who are Carlton fans, Essendon fans, Bulldogs fans, whatnot, give me a lot of grief for the way we won. It was almost like we drop-kicked a few puppies along the way. Next few days were a little bit tough in terms of talking footy. Had a mate, and this is where the pettiness comes from. He just flat out told me, mate, if you want to talk about Collingwood, go create a Pies YouTube channel. If you want to talk all things Collingwood, didn't want to borrow me after that. And let's just say the rest is history. I originally had this as Nate Talks Footy. I was just going to create my own channel, just talk all things footy and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then my first, draft video was that was the round where we lost to Gold Coast by about 11 points. Got to that game and just rattled on about Collingwood. And then I just stopped. Thought, you know what, I'll make this an actual Collingwood channel, just talking all things Collingwood.
Yeah.
So I made a few rough videos here and there, nothing too spectacular. Just the schedule was wonky last year. Had a few subscribers, mostly my mates. 2024. Had no intentions of making this channel or staying on this channel this year, but one thing's led to another, and yeah, the rest is history. 240 plus subscribers later, 1,000 plus video or 1,000 plus views on videos, and a lot of YouTube shorts, good intros, good analysis and whatnot. Just another YouTube channel talking all things Collingwood.
Yeah, I think I started when I was deciding to create a channel or not. I was 50-50. Are we going to do it just particularly Collingwood, or are we going to do it all things AFL? Because I'm a bit of an AFL nerd, so I look at everything, not just Collingwood. But then sort of everything that I was thinking about doing, it was sort of leading sort of towards that Collingwood bias. And I'm like, well, I think that answers my question there. So how did you become a Collingwood supporter? Were you brainwashed at birth, or was it something that, did you see a magpie swoop someone with a Carlton top on, or what was it?
Well, if I saw that as a kid, I would have gone instantly Collingwood. I think mine is a typical story. So my family is either Collingwood or Geelong, and yet I was 5 years old when I had the talk at 5 years old. Either you're going to be Collingwood or you're Geelong, and this would have been 2001. So both teams went relatively good around that time.
Yeah.
My grandfather he used to work for Geelong for a few years in the 70s and 80s. So he was trying to convince me to be a Geelong supporter. My dad was trying to convince me to be a Collingwood supporter. The weird thing that led me to Collingwood was Collingwood finished higher on the ladder in 01 compared to Geelong. We both missed finals, but 01, I went Collingwood, and the rest is history. I remember being 6 years old, crying, losing that grand final by 9 points to Brisbane. So, I've got a lot of vivid memories as a PIES supporter, but I've made the right decision. I know the flags aren't there compared to Geelong in the past 20-odd years, but I've made the right choice.
No, I think so. So, like, I was very similar. Like, I had no choice at birth, but my dad was very similar. It was either Hawthorn or Collingwood, and he chose Collingwood, because there was a game between Collingwood and Hawthorn, and he had a Hawthorn sticker on his school bag, and he had a Collingwood sticker on his school bag, and he said, whoever wins this game, and he would have been like young, grade 1, grade 2. This is God knows when, and he goes, whoever wins, I'm going to go for. And then I think he said that Peter McKenna kicked 9 that day, and Collingwood won by like 140 something points. So he goes, there's his decision made, and he came to school the next day and he had a scratched off Hawthorn sticker on his bag. So he says that he's missed out on all these premierships and all the good times, but he has seen a couple, which was pretty good. So thanks, Dad, if you're watching. Before we get straight to it, obviously there's a whole bunch of people in the comments too, and I'll try to get to everyone's comments. But first of all, I just want to say here to Ben Zero, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Love both your and Nate's channels, very different style, but both give a good debrief and a giggle. More PIES YouTube, the better. Keep it up, legends. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. So let's just get straight to it now. All the introductions and stuff like that are often, there's a segment which I've got now, which, I've been really excited to introduce to everybody here, because the intro took a lot of my, iPhone manipulation skills, but it's called The First Jab. Are you ready for this, Nate?
I thought I was, but I've actually forgotten my proper jab, but I'll give it a go.
Sorry, because I'll go first, so it's fine. Let's go.
Shame on anyone to lose a champion.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Okay. I don't know if they're good to references anything, but I just thought it'd be funny, so that's why I put it on. All right, so my first jab goes out to all you Collingwood supporters throughout the game against Gold Coast. Piss week. I had a rant about it in my last video, but I don't understand why there are so many Collingwood supporters when we are under the pump or when we lose a game, and we've only lost 3 games this year, so the club's given us a lot to cheer about so far this season and over the last, couple of seasons, why you would crumble so hard and be posting absolute crap on Facebook about our football club, especially just after halftime, when you know that we're going to come back. You know that when, like, we've had a shit first half, we're going to come back. I just think we're too fickle at times. I think our supporters sometimes, and this is not to the people so much who watch the channel or anything like that, God no, but it's just all the Facebook groups. I was like having a smoke at halftime, and I'm going through Facebook, and I couldn't believe just how many people were just bad-mouthing our players, and just how many people were just, bad-mouthing McRae. Like, come on, man. Like, we're allowed to lose a game here and there, and I'd rather be losing him now than being at the pointy end of the season. And I guarantee you those ones there, if we get up at come finals time, they're going to be the first people to praise everybody and say how good the club is and all this type of crap. There's no issue about, venting and being upset about something. And everybody was upset that we lost, don't get me wrong. But I'd rather lose like that with players missing than have a full team and get done by 100 points in a final. So that's my first jab, whatever you want to call it. Over to you if you remember yours.
Well, firstly, sorry. Just for me at least, I never access social media during games. I just don't want to be reactionary or anything like that. I wasn't
doing it on purpose. It was literally on my feed when I opened up Facebook.
That's expected. We are a fickle bunch. I mean, life's tough at the top of the ladder. I've thought of a jab. You know what excites me about starting a new round? Essendon on Thursday or Friday night. This is not in regards to Essendon. It's more in regards to whoever decided to put Essendon on primetime fixtures Thursday or Friday night. It is a little bit embarrassing. In hindsight, shot ourselves in the foot, or the AFL shot themselves in the foot. It's not on Essendon. I mean, thoughts and prayers to their injury list. Lee McMahon makes his debut this week, so good on him. We remember where you came from, Liam. So, but for the fixturing, Essendon this year. Technically, us last year we started losing games and fell down the ladder. Carlton in 2015. This floating fixture just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Look, just on that too. Before we sort of go into our review against Gold Coast, just with Essendon, I know they're one of our arch rivals, but they have been absolutely decimated on the injury front, and I think now Caddy's out for next week now too. So they're absolutely copying it left, right, and centre. Cox has done his knee. Hobbs has now got a groin strain or a hammy or something like that. So there's a whole bunch of things happening for them, which is bad. But the AFL, I think it's 15 primetime slots they've got throughout the season, whether it's Friday or Thursday nights. And you'd think after the season they had last year, why would you give them 15 primetime slots? I don't know. I just think that's a bit much. But yeah, it is what it is, really. Just going over to some of the comments here. Boz is loving the first jab intro. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. It's got no real relevance to anything. I just thought it sounds amazing, to be honest. Nathan Hopper says we needed red. So many supporters through the toweling. We can't win every game. Exactly right. Yeah. Also, Ben said here, he goes, remember to them side by side is our creed, supporters. Support. Yep. And then Mick's got a good point here. He goes, there's too many dodgy Collingwood Facebook pages, and you usually get those Nigerians there that are sending scammers out and stuff like that to them as well. So I think I saw one saying the Collingwood plane on the way to the Gold Coast is blown up, and there was some guy with a Nigerian name on there. So I was like, fair enough. Bozza has come up here and says that John Ralph has come up with a plan for the round 24 fixture to have a double header on a Thursday night, and Essendon and Carlton are one of them. I'm sure the ratings will be high for that one.
To be fair for that one, Essendon do have to play that catch-up game against Gold Coast. So fair enough. That might be Port Adelaide, Gold Coast Thursday, Friday night as well, and then they'll play that catch-up game the next Friday after that.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do an All-Stars game on the same week or something too now, between that week off, between finals. So, it'll be very interesting. And I said it last week on my live too. It'd be very interesting if Gold Coast do a bit of a win-loss, and then that final they need to play, because now Essendon can't make finals, but that final game they need to play, whether it could potentially knock them out of the finals, or it could potentially give them maybe even fifth spot for a home final. It's going to be interesting, that catch-up game, and the season's when it's over is still going to be on the line, and the whole top 8 is pretty much going to be up in air even after the season's finished. We're not going to know who's playing who, so very interesting. But we'll go straight into our match review against the Gold Coast, brought to you by New Homes Victoria. If you haven't already, please make sure you give them a follow on Instagram. I'll give you my... I've done my match review and stuff like that, and I was pretty vocal about it. If we play more than 2 quarters of footy, I genuinely think we can beat anybody in the competition if we decide to actually rock up on the day. I know we're missing players, and I genuinely think that we are testing our depth in a way now, but I think we're coming to a point where we're testing it, but then we're going to get the inclusion of all the players, because they're going to start flowing back in the side over the next 2 weeks, which is going to give them enough game time to obviously play and sort of gel before we play finals. And I said it with the boys on the show last week, you sort of need that continuity before you play in finals, not just to have everyone back 1 week. You got to get them, 2 or 3 games before the final start. And I think it's evident now, that we do need some sort of continuity in the side with our mainstays before they come back in. So, but the one player that I really wanted to bring up with you, and I wanted to get your opinion on him, is I think Lockie Schultz. He didn't dominate the possession count or anything like that, but his forward pressure And what he did around that forward 50 was absolutely elite. What were your thoughts?
Much needed. I didn't expect it from him for a full game. From that smother in the first quarter, which didn't lead to a goal, but the effort there, the rundown tackles or the attempts on John Noble in particular, I guess it's a contested mark, or is an intercept mark in that final quarter. Kicks that set shot from outside 50 as well. Only 10 touches, but 7 tackles. We needed that forward 50 pressure. It was there. Couldn't get us over the line. You said if we played 2 quarters of footy, if we just converted 2 set shots, if we had 2 inclusions in, just you name it. Do you feel we lost this game at the selection table though, or?
If Lipinski was genuinely sore and there was something wrong or he was ill, then no, because then there's a reason to obviously keep him out. I understand why they kept Myercheck out because let's be real, every 2 or 3 games, his body gets banged up. He's that crash and bash forward. He's got some sort of injury or something happening, or he's just genuinely sore. He's not young. So I understand where his body, so Myercheck you can sort of take out of the picture. I think it was evident. Now, this is one part I wanted to talk to you about, and then it was evident that obviously against Carlton, Tom Mitchell was the correct inclusion with the style of play that Carlton do, that very contested, everyone's like, focused in on the ball. You got to get that sort of that quick in and under sort of hand pass out. Whereas with the Gold Coast, it wasn't so much of that. It was the ball was fumbling, then bang, it was off. It wasn't really sort of a contested, pressured game like Carlton does, for example. It was a lot of spread, especially in that first half. So I think maybe we lost the game, or one of the losses that we had was selecting Tom Mitchell for the game against Gold Coast, considering the way that they play their style of footy. But I think it's good now that we've got an example against Carlton and an example against Gold Coast. But the problem is now, coming into this part of the season, we're going to, apart from Richmond and Melbourne, we're going to start playing teams that are obviously in the top 8. We're going back to that sort of that top 8 section now, playing against some good opposition. And a lot of those teams don't do that boring, contested, labour sort of intensive footy. So it's going to be really interesting to see where that selection comes now with Ned Long. I was all for, after the Carlton game, having them both in the side. But playing against Gold Coast, I think my opinion has shifted a little bit. And I think we probably do need to just stick with one or the other. Also, depending on who the opposition is at the same time with matchups and stuff like that too. So, but going back to the Lipinski side of things, if he was genuinely sore and there was a problem, then they did the right thing. If there wasn't, then I think they may have chosen to rest the wrong player against Gold Coast. What do you think?
Oh, we needed his forward 50 entries, that was for sure.
Yeah.
I thought Rowan Steele, only 8 disposals, but his inside 50 entries were pretty good. That's what he was delivering at the VFL level. Obviously, in a high pressure game like this, he wasn't going to stand out. He's still a bottom 6 player, Rowan Steele, but showing good footy IQ. It'd be a bit harsh to drop someone like him for Freo. On the Tom Mitchell side as well, and maybe more on Gold Coast, was 12 months ago, they were more crash and bash, more contested footy style. They've got a more run and carry sort of game. Matt Rowe's adapted perfectly to that. He's signed a 2-year extension there as well. Noah Anderson's flying. Trick Miller's unfortunately done his hamstring, but they've got that run and pace on all positions of the ground. And yeah, it exposes a team like us, or if we do opt to try and have a run with roll or that more contested side with Tom Mitchell and Ned Long, we do get exposed. So yeah, it's not just the Lipinski side. It's not just the Tom Mitchell side, just little factors here and there. Our bottom 6 players, besides Mason Cox, delivering against the Suns. But
yeah,
I feel confident if we play Gold Coast again, whether it's up there or at the MCG in a big final, we'll get the win back.
I think we will, especially if it is at the G. Like if they were to sneak a 4th spot and we were to stay on top, or we would have finished 2nd and they would somehow win all their games and finish 3rd or whatever it is, and we ended up playing them at the G in a qualifying final, I think we'd have their measure quite comfortably. Even if they won an elimination final and we lost a qualifying final, we played them in a home semi, I still think we'd have their measure there. Hopefully it doesn't get to that. What were your thoughts on, like, obviously pretty much leading up until halftime without scoring a goal? Like what was going through your mind then?
Crap. I can't swear. I don't want to swear. Being goalless in a half, I didn't. I actually didn't expect us to win this game, but I also didn't expect us to be 8 behinds at halftime.
Yeah.
We lost every single stat besides the tackles, so the pressure was still there. The effort was still there, just the delivery and efficiency and whatnot was just terrible. If we played a team like the Bulldogs or Brisbane or Geelong or even a GWS, I think this game would have definitely been over at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
This was leaning close to, if you remember, Port Adelaide smashing Sydney last year at Adelaide Oval. That's what it was leaning towards. And I mean, it's been 20 years since we lost by 100 points or over 100 points. And
Yeah.
that's where it was leaning towards. I actually didn't feel comfortable we would kick a goal at any stage in that second quarter. I wrote down in my notebook before, well, when the second quarter siren started or the first bounce, I actually had a bad feeling about that second quarter. And yeah, it's very hard to put in the words that first half. Players fumbling, being pressured to kick long, wide. If we went central, the Suns had the pressure. They just got that fist in, that spoil. If they created a stoppage, they won the stoppage easily. That was a big factor, minus 15 in stoppages for the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I felt like every time we got a stoppage inside our forward 50, it was just coming out so quickly. Like, for us to bring it out of our defense, it was such a hard slog. And then just to get it there, and it was like they ran out of legs by the time the ball actually hit the forward 50. Even when, like, I noticed a couple of passages of play, we got them on the rebound and we're running through the middle. Like, the link was there from half back to the, like, sort of almost to half forward. But then the delivery into the forward line, we were just all over the shop. And then when we actually got it, we're just shanking our kicks. Like I understand, there comes times where we're not going to be so accurate in front of goal and we're going to miss stuff here and there. But that first half, I mean, but with that being said, we didn't really get those opportunities directly in front of goal. Like, if you notice, a lot of our shots were like on the half forward flank or in the forward pocket. They weren't too far out, some of them, but they were still on that really tough angle. And I'm thinking to myself, we just got to get that mark in that hot spot right in front of the goal square, or give us a bodgy free kick like you're giving Rail every 2 minutes in a stoppage. So, to be fair though, like, he did have. There were some that were there, like, and we can argue it all we want. There was some where I thought the one where Ben King got it, I think it was from Darcy Moore. I think that was a bit stiff, like they were both sort of jostling, and then I think Darcy's hand was still on his arm, but King played for it. But the Matt Rowell ones, unfortunately, I just think most of them were sort of there, if that makes sense.
No, I 100% agree with you on that. The Matt Rowell free kicks.
Yeah.
It was actually Matt Rowell engaging with the holding first on a Ned Long or someone else.
And you do it second and then you get caught.
Yeah, and just with the Ben King one, I remember that specifically. That was Harry Perryman. He didn't hold on to it.
That's it. Yeah,
I think it was just more tangled, but it's not out of the ordinary. So again, little things like that, and they were mostly in front of goals for the Gold Coast Suns, and they converted their set shots. Yeah, what more can you do? Hopefully, we're protected against Fremantle though on that.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice if we we'll get to the Freo stuff pretty shortly. Just going to go over some of these comments here. Yeah, Mick Sackers just says Shooter was a Viking warrior in a past life. Probably not with his height, but hopefully in the past life he was a bit taller in that sense. We've got here Hatters says, pretty clear we can't play Long and Mitchell unless we play slugs in the midfield like Carlton, which is pretty much what I was getting to. He's also gone and said, reckon we missed the aerobic capacity Ed Allen at a ground like Carrara. I do think maybe the Ed Allen inclusion should have happened. I mean, I watched the VFL game and he played really well, like really well. And I'm thinking, geez, I mean, if you're someone like Oleg Markov or anyone playing this game, you'd want to have a good one because he's doing really, really well. Do you reckon we probably should have played him over Markov or put him over someone else, or even like a Tom Mitchell or someone?
Oh, we needed his composure. He's a very good kick under pressure at Allen, particularly out of half back, and he's a good runner along the wing. He showed that. Unfortunately, it led to Harry DiMartia having a lesser game in the midfield and also Will Parker. But so be it. We won the VFL.
Yeah.
Win there. Ed Allen had a good game, particularly that first quarter. We needed, someone like Ed Allen's ability. His running ability, his kicking ability, a little bit of everything from Ed Allen. Again, that's another selection that didn't go our way, but makes for a big selection headache against Fremantle. There's a few players come back in, and also someone like Ed Allen, who's not injured, playing good footy in the VFL. Charlie Dean, likely replacement for Jeremy Howe as well.
Well, we've got Billy Frampton. I think we'll talk about that when we get to the Fremantle game shortly. But Billy Frampton might be in this week against Fremantle, so it'll be nice if he is. We'll get to the second half, and before we touch on that third quarter, Rick's put a really good comment in, and this was like the first thing that I was going to lead into for the second half, and I want to get your take on this one. Biggest mistake was Pendle's sub. Needed his brilliance inside 50 kicks and organising our midfield. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, we've talked about if this player played and this player didn't play, and if we just had this on the field and the umpiring go our way and whatnot. And there's a simple one right there. If Pendle replays a full game, that's enough. That's enough right there. We won the clearances in the second half, and that's because of Scott Pendlebury. I know Josh Dacos had that big final quarter, which we'll touch on a little bit later, but we needed Pendlebury's experience in the midfield, that defensiveness, the leadership, the maturity. Yeah, we just need all of it. That was definitely a tactical decision, just to rest him or manage him. So long as he builds up those games and gets to the Boomers record next year, I'm all for it. But in terms of winning a game, in hindsight, wasn't the right decision.
Yeah, I think I would rather, like a player like Pendles, if you've got him, use him from the start. Now, if you want to manage him, I'm more than happy to take him off, halfway through the third quarter or even at half time if you need to, or I'm happy for him to be a sub, but the player that gets made, or gets subbed off, not the player who starts. I think a big thing that we've missed at times this season, I think the North Melbourne game was a big one when we had Pendles out and we had Sidebottom out. And I just think that we lacked a lot of leadership, especially in that first half on the field. I'm not saying we lacked too much leadership against Gold Coast, but I think we just lacked the composure, the experience of having that coach on the field to say, hey, we're under pressure here. We need to do something here. This is how we're going to set up. You just need the words of wisdom. And I think that we needed that on the field, especially in that second quarter. So I would prefer if you want to have him as a sub him off. Don't start him as the sub. And if you want to manage him, then don't trouble. I'd rather him not be there than have him there and being able to use him and not, if that makes sense. So, but Hatters has made a really good point here. He goes, it was pretty clear Fly was experimenting, given the number of different midfield rotations. At one point, he had Cameron, Long, Mitchell, and Sidebottom all slow. So, I'm not saying Pendles is the fastest person ever, but still, you'd probably take out Mitchell and put Pendles in there, and then all of a sudden you got your composure, and then Long's on the run. So, the third quarter, when we scored our first goal, did you think comeback time, or did you think, thank God we actually scored a goal?
No, just relief. It felt like winning a premiership. That shot from Tim Membry.
Yeah, I couldn't tell how loud the crowd was too.
Was that Bronx cheers, or was that really Collingwood fans just singing hallelujah?
Yeah. We're paying all this money to come up to the Gold Coast on school holidays and we haven't kicked the goal yet.
I actually felt bad for the fans that flew up, and I was actually concerned they were going to watch an entire game without seeing a goal.
That would have been. Can you imagine the absolute piss take we would have been made out of if we hadn't scored a goal in a game of footy, and we're on top of the ladder, the best side in the competition, and that would have been awful. That third quarter though, I was just really happy with the fact that even when we were down, and I was texting one of my mates and I said to him that if we go down by more than 30 points in anyway through the third quarter, we've kicked a couple of goals, if they get it back out to a 30-point lead, it's over here. Now we're just going through the motions, make sure we don't get injured in the second half. It went out to 27 points again after we scored a couple of goals, and I'm like, we've got to get the next one, and we did. Once we got that and the run kept happening, and to be honest, we completely destroyed them. We completely destroyed them at parts of that third quarter, especially towards the end. They weren't even touching the ball. We were just trying to pinpoint where to put it in the forward line, and then we just hit. I think the biggest thing was the fact that the delivery inside 50 was a lot more free flowing, and the chain of hand passes and the kicks and stuff, everything was just syncing perfectly. that's why I thought in the fourth quarter we were probably going to come close to running over them. But again, we hit the front too early.
Just with that third quarter, there was still like something was bubbling. Like the effort was there. We were starting to improve. The set shots were still terrible. Jack Crisp kicked a set shot out of bounds on the full, which pretty much typified his game there. Nick Dacos took an advantage and missed a shot. Got crap from Suns players for it, and honestly, deservedly so. I mean, we got a free kick inside 50. Don't take the advantage unless you're 100% certain.
Oh,
He was not 100% certain of that. That was very selfish.
Yeah,
he's better than that, Nick.
Yeah, that cost us a little bit there. Just going to go a couple comments quickly before we get to the last quarter. Sean, Ultimate Greatness. Still reckon we need more of a sample size of Mitchell Long. People quickly forget it worked the week before. Why are we so quick to jump up after one bad week in an interstate game? I think it's more the fact that I understand I understand exactly where he's coming from here, but I think it's more the fact that you got to look at the opposition and how it works against the opposition. As I said before, against Carlton it worked because their midfield was very slow. It was very sluggish. It was very, everyone was just cramming over the footy. Carlton don't have a quick spread like we do, whereas Gold Coast have that really quick spread. So by the time we're trying to get the ball, they've already tapped it out and they're already gone. And half the time it wasn't even in a contested pack. It was just one tap or one tap on the ground or a quick little dinky hand pass, and they were out. And I don't think the game style suited Tom Mitchell. That's what I think. And moving in towards the finals with the teams that we're going to play, and we're going to play Hawthorn, we're going to play Adelaide away, we're going to play Brisbane. I think, and Fremantle next week. I think Richmond and Melbourne are the only two that are sitting outside the 8 that we have to play. That you could inject the Tom Mitchell and he'll get you 30 possessions and dominate a game. But is that going to stack up against the Brisbane? Is it going to stack up against, a team like Adelaide at Adelaide Oval? That's where I'm a little bit concerned about. But we've got a really good game to sample on, and we've got a game where it didn't work. So I would play him next week against Freo, because Freo obviously is not in that range of missing out or just making it. That'll be a really good a test to see if it works against a side that's literally needs to win to keep their season alive, so to speak. So
Freo's a good test. They've got a mixture of outside and inside game with Sarong, Brayshaw, returning Hayden Young. Luke Jackson can play a tall midfield role when Sean Darcy's in the ruck. And even teams against Richmond and Melbourne, they've got good midfield duos and trios we've got to get on top of. Just with Tom Mitchell, though, we never recruited him to get 30-plus disposals and be a Brownlow medalist again or anything like that.
Yeah,
he doesn't need 30 disposals. 25 disposals, make Nick Dacos, DeGoey, Pendlebury, side bottom players around him look better. Tom Mitchell can play a run-with role. He's done 2023 grand final, played a run-with role with Lachie Neale, stole his possessions. That's what Tom Mitchell is capable of doing, stealing opposition disposals, giving it out, making our players look better. He's not a good kick. I mean, I think he knows that as well. He's not a good kick. So he just handballs it off to the player that can kick it, and the rest goes along from there. With Tom Mitchell and Ned Long, though, for me, the jury's still out, but I'm not going to be conclusive on it until the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Ned Long's game has taken a little bit of a dip in recent weeks, particularly with Tom Mitchell back, but I do have hope for Ned Long that he can play maybe half forward, perhaps. He's got good goal sense. Maybe starting on the bench and rotating in the midfield, maybe what Lachie Sullivan's doing. Ned Long can definitely play that role and better compared to Lachie Sullivan at least 15 disposals a game. And if everybody's back fit and firing by September, I don't think anyone had Ned Long in their best 22 or 23. That might be the case. There is a possibility that Ned Long, I'm just throwing it out there, could be John Noble by September, but hopefully not dropped. I'm hoping not the case.
Definitely, I understand what you're saying there. I mean, it's going to be a tight squeeze, and that's something that I was going to get to a bit later too, after we sort of go over the three. This is what happens. You get into the conversation, just one thing leads to another, and before you know it, you're speaking for 2 hours. But the good thing is, people don't drop off, which is fantastic. But we'll just go quickly to the last quarter against Gold Coast. There's really only one particular play that I want to really speak about, and that was when Dan McStay got that mark or got the free kick for holding, and he's missed it again, 20 meters out. 25 meters out, pretty much directly in front. That's his bread and butter. And I just think to myself, that's why you're there, taking that main defender. You know, you got that free kick that we've been craving all game. And, you know, we've worked so hard to get into a position that we were. Those are the types of, and I remember I was on a live, start of the season, and I was like grilling us for our goal kicking. And I think it was against the Bulldogs where Elliott, McStay, De Goey, all missed goals, like, you know, 25 meters out, albeit maybe not directly in front, maybe on a slight angle. I think Elliott's one was fairly close and pretty much directly in front, and he's missed it. But it's just, they're the moments that you've got to take. And if you miss one, okay, but if you're going to get the opportunities, and I remember talking about the comments, the people hammering me about it. And then you look at now against Gold Coast, if McStay kicks that, the pressure's right back on him. I know you're going to take the ball back into the middle. The game's in a different scenario, but it's scoreboard pressure, and you just got to take those opportunities. So I think that's the one thing in the last quarter that really did my head in. The other thing was there was a play where Jack Crisper got the ball on the half-forward flank, and he had Jamie Elliott in front of him calling for the hand pass. And then he sort of looked at him, and you could see it in the slow-mo. He looks at him, and then he looks towards the goals. And by the time he looks towards the goals, the Gold Coast players just absolutely nailed him. And I'm just like, first option. Like, he got and he would have kicked it. But you'd think, but you got to take those opportunities when they're there. You've got to give it off straight away. What were your thoughts on the final quarter?
Just firstly with Dan McStay, in his absolute defence, 20 seconds later, Lockie Schultz takes that intercept mark and kicks the goal. So technically a 7-point.
It was 7-pointer. Yes.
But Dan McStay channeling his inner Travis Cloak. I had Dan McStay in for a big game. I thought maybe 4, maybe even 5 goals, career best game. With no Sam Collins, didn't kick a goal, didn't even pinch hit in the ruck. So I'm expecting Dan McStay to bounce back. The Jack Crisp thing, I'm seeing people blamed Crisp for that. I'm actually going to blame Jamie Elliott for being in the way of Jack Crisp. He's a left footer. The goals were right there, and Jamie Elliott's in the way, asking for a handball. And Jamie Elliott
would have taken time to process. I get that.
But Jamie Elliott's not the first, or he's not the only player that did this for us. Nick Dacos did it a few times. I saw Long, Mitchell, side bottom do it a few times, asking for that handball. So say this is the player asking for a handball just in my way. I'm trying to look for a target, and someone's asking for a handball, being a little bit selfish. Come on, we're better than that.
No, I understand that 100%. When I've got to say it, and you got to give Gold Coast credit, especially after we hit the front when Jamie Elliott's kicked that goal, that play by Noah Anderson, you know, getting the 1-2 and then taking it straight through the middle. I mean, that was, and it had to be against us, but I'm just like, that was just a spectacular piece of footy. Like I was just like, oh, you can't argue with that. Look how good that is, you know?
Yeah, I actually clapped. That's just well played. You can't do much about it. Nick Dacos' accountability in that centre clearance leaves a lot to be desired, but he's a better player than that. He'll respond. But Noah Anderson probably gets another 2 or 3 Brownlow vote game in this one. Starting to become a little bit annoying against us, but
statement game.
That annoys me. I'm sick of hearing statement win. They've arrived. They've been in the AFL for 15 seasons. What do you mean they've just arrived? It's annoying. I prefer them over GWS in terms of the expansion teams, but with statement wins like that and playing their grand final against us, I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed. I don't want to hate the Gold Coast Suns, but I'm leaning towards that. Hopefully they don't beat us in September this year or in the future. But it's a shame as well. We technically kicked 8 goals in a 30-minute span, 3 goals in the third quarter, 5 goals in the first half of that final quarter. And it ended up being a carbon copy of last year's game where we hit the front. Maybe last year wasn't too early. That was 5 minutes to go. In this game, we still had a half a quarter to go. And by the momentum running around with, we could have won this game by 4 or 5 goals. So
it just felt like we ran out of legs though. Like as soon as we hit the front, I felt like then all of a sudden it was like bang, lethargic footy. I know Anderson got that goal, they scored straight away, but I felt like even trying to get it back into our forward line, it was just we were like just hanging on by a thread, and we had nothing left because we had worked up all this energy to try and get to that point, and then the tank was empty. And like, I understand that. I understand, like, because you got emotions running high and God knows what. But yeah, it goes back to what I said at the very start of this live stream: was you just play more than 2 quarters of footy and we win. It's that simple. So
I'll ask you this:
Hmm.
you watch soccer?
Yes.
Yeah. Did it feel like, for the Gold Coast Suns, their pressure was very good, but I actually wrote this down. It felt like 5 in the back / parking the bus kind of defense. Like every time we got it forward, there was always the Suns numbers just getting back straight away.
Yeah,
very
so
hard to penetrate.
It felt like it was an onslaught from the start, where they're playing ultra attacking football, and they've scored, they're 3-0 up at halftime, and they're just getting everything down there. And then the second half, we've come out and we've played the same, and then they've pretty much parked the bus, if you had to put in soccer terms, and they're just doing like long through balls and just trying to sneak them over. That's pretty much how it was in a round ball term. It's actually quite funny that you said that, because it's like exactly the same as how it is. So look, that's pretty much our review for the thing. I when the game finished, I was obviously disappointed that we had a loss. I think it was, and a few other content creators have said it. You might have said it, and I'm not sure if you said it, but you might have. I think it was the hope that because we got back in front, and it was the emotion sort of, oh yes, we're back in front, like it was against North Melbourne last year, and then it just got taken away from you as quick as you felt it. I think that was probably the only disappointing part. But at the same time, I mean, if you look at the losses that we've had this year, the GWS game was the most deflating game. Like even though like I knew that like it's just they weren't there with it. I know it was shit that it was opening round or whatever. And then you look at the way we played against Port Adelaide in round 1, you knew that, hang on a second, we're on here. The Geelong game, obviously, we let that slip, but then it was decided off our own foot. So, you can't really be too worried about that. And then this game was just, you knew that we were missing players, and then we weren't on up until obviously after half time. And credit, I just think the Gold Coast had so much more to play for than us in that sense there. So I was a little bit deflated for the first couple of hours. You go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you're like, it is what it is. So how did you feel?
I was a bit relieved, not for losing, but got that goal. We bounced back. We somehow got the lead. Obviously, it's a heartbreaking loss to lose by 6 points or less, but I feel confident if we play Gold Coast again with a full strength team. Collingwood under Craig McRae, we don't make the same mistake twice. So I feel like we'll definitely bounce back against them. Firstly, or lastly at least, fair play to Gold Coast, deserving winners in the end.
100%.
Much better team. So I don't want to make excuses and go, if we only had this player or that player, or blame the umpires and whatnot. No, they were the better team, better players. Their depth players stood up. Their role players stood up. Their main players played tremendously as well. Yeah, we'll bounce back. Gold Coast, they've got a big fortnight. Hopefully they get another statement win against either Adelaide or Brisbane.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
I would hate it if they get smashed in those 2 games. They fall to 8th or 9th, and it's all for nothing.
Yeah, I know. But we'll get to the Freo game in a minute. And I'll tell you now, they're going to say, oh, this is a statement week for Fremantle. They've got to play against interstate, against the top side. They've got to think it'd be like every fucking week it's against us. It's a statement week every week against us. But we'll get to some of the comments here, because the chat's absolutely peaking right now. Mick's come up here and he says, Andreas, are you still on the Cox train?
Ooh.
I'm telling you, and I've said this from the start of the season, I am a big Mason man. I'm not going to say his last name. I'm a big Mason man. I do think his form obviously tapered off, sort of like when he did string those few games together towards the end of it and stuff like that. But when he plays, and it allows McStay to stay in the forward line and maybe pinch hit here and there if he needs to, only if it's an emergency. When Cox plays, it makes Darcy Cameron so much better. And he's probably, in my opinion, he's the second best ruckman in the competition at the moment. But it allows Darcy Cameron to be so much better, because Cox is I think Cox is a better tap ruckman than Darcy Cameron. But I think Cameron's a better overall. He's a good ruckman where he can the body, the the grappling when the ball goes on the ground. Where when the ball goes on the ground, Cox isn't getting it. Let's just face it, he's not picking it up and doing some like nice, fend off and getting the hand pass out. He's not doing that at all. He's still too uncoordinated for that. But his tap work and the way he gets it out to our players is so important for it to be a second ruckman. I still think if we had our absolute best 23, I know he misses out. I know on paper he misses out. I think our structure, he's in 100%. He starts on the bench. Also, too, you can rest him up forward. And the good thing is if Mason Cox goes up forward, he still demands one of the best defenders. So if he and he might only mark 2 or 3 out of 10, but when he doesn't mark it, his opponent's not marking the ball, right? He's bringing the ball to ground. And then you're going to have the likes of McCreary, Elliott, Hill, Schultz. You're going to have all these little amigos and they're going to attack. I just think it works. With that being said, though, we've got inclusions into our side over the last 2 years that have probably limited that to be able to happen. Membry, McStay. It's you can't play all these tools. Let's face it. We played all these tools against West Coast, and they took the piss out of us for 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters. You know what I mean? So I think it also depends on who you're playing against. I think it's a very similar conversation with the Tom Mitchell one with Mason Cox. What are your thoughts on that?
Start of the year, yeah, I love the Triple M forward line. Unfortunately, it would mean Mason Cox would have to be out. Surprisingly, played well here against Gold Coast. He didn't warrant selection from his performances in the VFL, but played much better here compared to Darcy Cameron, who I thought he must have had the flu or illness or something, Darcy Cameron, against the Suns. But for Cox and selection, I don't think he's in our best 23. I think Dan McStay is one knee injury away from telling him, no, you're not playing ruck ever again. Dan McStay was drafted as a key defender from Brisbane. He's got that ability in him. Mychek was a defender in the VFL, so we couldn't use one of those 2 down back. Yeah, it's a good selection dilemma to have in terms of our structure and the opposition we play. He'll likely be needed for the Freo game. I don't trust Dan McStay's knee against Sean Darcy as the second ruck battle, so definitely need. And Mason Cox as well can stop Josh Tracy taking that contested mark out of defensive 50 for Freo. So if we can limit that, we can kill them on defensive or their ability to try and transition out of defensive 50. They are vulnerable like that, but.
Just go to some of the comments here before we touch on the Freo game. Artist has said, well done, lads. A great conversation. Thank you very much. That's what we're here for. Quick Dead has said, thoughts on the game against Freo. We're going to touch on that in a second. Here we go. Are you going to address the ridiculous umpiring favouring Rail whilst Nick and Josh Stakers were ragdolled all night? We sort of touched on it before with the Rail free kicks and stuff like that. I do think that most of the ones that Rail got were there. Because if it happened, and I'm saying that because if it happened against us, I'd be losing my shit if they weren't paid. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, there were some that were exactly the same that should have been paid for us. So, Nick got that one where he was tackled, the high tackle he got. I think just in general too, there was, the ruck battles were 50-50. The umpire was sort of just paying whatever with the ruck to whoever. So that, it was consistently going either way. So I wasn't too fussed about it. But it wasn't just Nick and Josh Stakos. I saw Pendles being held. I saw Tom Mitchell being held. I saw Jack Crisp being held so many times, even before he got the ball. There was some of the ones in the back line where Quayner was going for the ball and he was literally pulled and his arms were in the air and it wasn't paid. And I'm thinking to myself, if that was Matt Rowell, if you put him with red hair and a red jumper on, he gets the free kick every day of the week, and Quayner or anybody else, whoever tackled him, would have got a 6-month jail sentence, because God help if anybody had touched Matt Rowell. So that part I 110% agree with. I just think there was some decisions that Matt Rowell got that were probably there, but stiff at this. You've seen worse not paid, if that makes sense. So
yeah, one of those games where in any other game, it's 50-50 and let go and whatnot. I think we got the harsh end of it, unfortunately. There was that one free kick from Nick Dacos where Matt Rao was on him like a rash, arm around his arm or arm around his neck and whatnot. There was a Twitter, I don't know what the Twitter username was, but he posted the video and the caption was basically implying that Nick Dacos gets soft free kicks, and the free kick's right there.
Luke has said here, he goes, David, the frees were there. The issue is Dacos really has them paid when he's tagged, which, yeah, that's a fair point too. So, but I am very solely on Hatter's side with what he's saying. I totally understand exactly what he's saying, because if you're going to pay it for one, you've got to pay it for the other. And that's why I said, with the ruck contests, they paid them both ways. One was like Witts was being held, paid it. Cox was being held, or Cameron was being held, and they paid it. So, I'm okay if you're going to do it both ways. But just like if you're going to give Rao all these ones here, like especially if you're going to set the tone at the start of the game and you're going to give Rao that free kick where he kicks the goal from 50 out against Ned Long, you have to pay it every single time it happens to us. If you're going to pay it that early and you're going to set a tone, I think that was a bit unfair for us. But yeah,
Well, I'll say no way they're paying those free kicks next week when Gold Coast play Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. Brave umpire if you're going to pay those free kicks for Matt Rao.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Mix also said here, and we'll get to the Freo game right after this comment, does Jamie play better with one less Triple M? I've got a theory on this. I want to hear your take first.
Well, he did play better without Dan McStay for that 2-month period where now Jamie Elliott's an All-Australian small forward.
Yeah.
But I think they all played against Carlton and Jamie Elliott still had a big day out. Yeah. So it can work so long as it's Myercheck, McStay, Membry, Elliott, and if one or two are on the bench or whatever, give Jamie Elliott all that space inside 50 or let him be a proper lead-up forward as well. He's 32 or 33 years old, so that small forward crumbing ability is not going to be there as much anymore, but he's a very good lead-up forward. So
I think
it works. I think it does work, though.
I think it works fine, and I think it's solely dependent on obviously the delivery into the forward line. If you're going to do long, high hospital kicks up in the air, then no. Because if you're going to have three talls in there, the problem is Jamie spent most of his career at Collingwood playing as a tall forward when he's not. Lockie Schultz and Jamie Elliott are the same height, right? You're not going to see Lockie Schultz, jumping up and taking marks against 6'5" defenders like Jamie Elliott does. So the problem is they're getting in each other's way, and it solely depends on how the ball's been kicked into the forward line. You look at the game against Carlton, perfect example, when you've got Houston and you've got Pat Lipinski doing those unbelievable kicks into the forward 50, and Jamie Elliott, and they're seeing Elliott before he's even there, and they know where to kick it to. That's exactly what Jamie's there for. But then Jamie's also really good getting the hand pass around the pack, doing a snap goal, all that type of stuff. Having the Triple M's there allows Jamie to play that smaller lead-up forward role. If you're missing one of the Triple M's, he tends to then bring that higher, like that aerial presence, which, to be fair, we don't need it anymore. And he's played most of his career at Collingwood doing that. Look at the speckies he's taken, right? Look at the forwards that we've had since he's played. You've had Quinton Lynch, Jesse White, you've had, what was it, the end of Travis Cloak, you know what I mean? So he hasn't had a plethora of consistent, tall, big forwards in there with him, and he's had to do that as well as battling injuries and everything. So I think he works with them, as provided that the delivery into the forward line isn't all these hospital kicks, and when they are high up and unders, he's got to be the Lockie Schultz, he's got to be the Bo McCreary, he's got to be the Jordan De Goey, he's got to be the Bobby Hill. I think I said him, but that's when you just you go in and stuff like that. So that's not a bad thing. It's just unfortunate that he's had to play that role his entire career. So yeah, that's on mine. Now Fremantle. What are your takes on Freo this season?
Firstly, impressive win over Hawthorn last week. A victory over Hawthorn is a friend of mine.
Done. Yeah.
Very good response that final quarter.
Yeah.
They've 7 of their last 8 games since losing to us last time we played them. So they're doing something right. They've got
Mhm.
one of the best records against top 8 teams or top 9 teams in the competition, better than us. 5-2 for them, 5-3 for us. Uh, they're not vanilla anymore.
Mhm.
That was the big conjecture with Fremantle and Longmuir. And they're one of the youngest sides in the competition as well. So the expectations surprisingly is there to be in it to win it or win it all. They're still one of the youngest sides in the competition, so they've got years to get this right, get the balance right with Darcy and Jackson in the ruck, get a lockdown defender. Surprisingly, and I said this in my last preview video in round 9, Fremantle don't have a lot of lockdown defenders. Oh,
Mm.
they're all rebounding or intercept defenders, but they've got to have to play
Yeah.
lockdown. It doesn't
Mm.
work for them. So I think they've given them the license to get that run and dash game out of defensive 50. They're one of the best rebounding sides out of defensive 50. Their key forward, besides Tracy, does leave a little bit to be desired. Not just Amos and Voss, but they're small forwards. I think they can improve on that. Sirog and Brayshaw, two of the best, or one of the best midfield duos in the competition. To get Hayden Young back, they're going to find that balance as well. What does Luke Jackson do? Does he still play midfield, or do they rest him forward? Shea Bolden, what's his midfield forward ratio? A few other players as well. A lot of role players being exploits. No Alex Pearce, so another opening there to hopefully get on top of this defense. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. I'm starting to waffle on a bit.
No, I 100% agree. And Pierce always has moments against us. I remember the game we played against them earlier in the season. He had just moments where he was taking some clunks and, just doing the stuff that he does, and it was really damaging, especially when, it was goal for goal at some points during that game. I know we ended up winning, what was it, 14 points or whatever it was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he had moments. And this is a good comment here Peter G's got, and he's a good contributor to this show, Peter G. He said, do we play Jacos in the midfield from the start on Sunday and play Perryman as a permanent half back?
I have an early thought on that, and this is going
to be this is the $64 million question for Sunday's game,
and I'm not going to win the $64 million for Josh Dacos in the midfield. No, but rotation in the midfield, not a full midfielder.
Yeah. I'm leaning on that to suss it out at the start. Yeah, because like he did it against Gold Coast, and you saw what he did obviously in that last quarter. That's not you can't play that level for 4 quarters every week. You can do it for one game here and there, but I would definitely be rotating him through the midfield and halfback. It's just going to be interesting though if they do decide to make him leading into the finals a permanent midfielder, and they do all their swaps and they move their magnets and they've got a good balance and everybody's happy with it and the supporters are okay with it. How is that going to affect Dan Houston on the halfback? Is that going to allow Dan Houston then to play the Josh Dacos role, which was more similar to what he was doing at Port Adelaide, which is the All-Australian Dan Houston, or is he going to stay as the key role defender halfback that he's been doing for us? And even though he's not racking up 40 disposals every game and kicking 3 goals and in All-Australian conversation, he's playing a role that is extremely important to us at the moment. And people can shit all over him all they want. I still think the stuff that he does is invaluable for us this season. What are your thoughts?
Had a very good first quarter against Gold Coast. Dan Houston then tapered off, but still had a good overall game. His best game, obviously, was against Port Adelaide. Had a very good game against Hawthorn. His 450 entries there were magnificent. He's showing glimpses here and there. It's definitely not all Australian, but I've got a good feeling about Dan Houston if Josh Dacos plays more midfield. So there's that. It is a big chance for Dan Houston. Tripping off my words. Big game for Dan Houston to step up. Big game for Josh Dacos to step up. Big game for a lot of players to step up as well. Our depth players to step up. I've just got a good feeling about Dan Houston playing across halfback. I think we'll be fine with that sort of rotation. It's a nice trump card to have with Josh Dacos in the midfield now. Remy Howe as a swingman forward in the past. We might swing someone back like a Dan McStay or a Brody Mychek. We haven't played that card yet. Crisp McCreary playing more center clearances, stuff like that. I'm looking forward to seeing how Dan Houston performs with Josh Dacos playing up the ground a little bit more. And for Josh Dacos, I want to see him be more attacking. Like, he's only kicked 2 or 3 goals this season. Like, he's a Dacos. He kicks goals. So, and he's forward 50 entries as well. Linking up with Nick Dacos up the ground, that's what we need. And for Perryman, I saw the question there with Perryman. He's a very good utility player. I know his stats aren't there this year, but I think keep him across half back, play as that lockdown defender role. I know he's not going to light the world on fire or anything like that. But if in case our midfielders all get injuries at the same time, Perryman comes into the midfield, can play on the wing, can play up forward as well, has good goal sense. So
he's a bit of a silent achiever, Perryman, in that sense, where he does so many things that just go unnoticed. And it was when, and I've said this before on my channel, I've gone back and looked at like on like games that he's played against us, in particular that 2023 prelim final. And if you had a sort of and said, "Oh, who are their best players that game?" Obviously, you would have said Toby Green, you would have said Hogan, even there was a few others in the mid. You wouldn't have said Perryman. I've watched back on that game so many times, and some of the stuff that Perryman did, the intercept marking, the groundwork, and the delivery into the forward 50, where he linked up with, like, he kicked it to Hogan, he kicked it to Toby Green, and I just thought to myself, like, he's going to be invaluable for us, and he's like, he hasn't set the world on fire every single week, but there's some games where he just does stuff, and you just think to yourself, geez, we're missing this type of player. It's like, I felt like he was the quarterback where the ball would come out from a pack in defense, it would go to him, and then bang, he'd then deliver it out, or he'd get that hand pass out that we needed to break free. And then at the same time, he's done so many like intercept marking, good body on body work, good spoils. He hasn't got the same body shape, but Jesus Christ, I mean, this is the stuff that Jimmy Clement used to do. You know what I mean? And I'm liking where that's going. Very similar situation to Dan Houston. Needs to adjust to the Collingwood system from his previous club. It took Lachie Schultz a full year pretty much to do it. And look at the way that Lachie Schultz has had a finish to 2024, which was fantastic. And he's carried that into all the games that he has played for us this one. What do you think would be the one thing that, what's the most important thing for us to do to beat Freo before we move on?
Stopping Sarong. We don't have to hard tag Sarong, but make him accountable.
Doesn't he tag Dacos?
No, they'll have Wagner tag Nick Dacos like last time.
Okay.
We don't tag. We'll like to have a run with roll with Sarong, so Ned Long and Tom Mitchell. So big games for those two to respond and see how they perform, playing a lockdown, or not a lockdown, but a run with role, accountability role, particularly in the stoppages. And if possible, I don't expect Hayden Young to have a big game, first game back from his hamstring injury, because his hamstrings are a little bit worse than Lachie Schultz right now. He's had a history with him this year in preseason. So if Hayden Young gets on top of us surprisingly, then we've got a lot of work to do with that midfield. So there's a lot. Their key forwards, they're going to have the height up forward. But I said this with the Gold Coast preview that I think would be right. We technically were right or fine against Gold Coast, keeping them to 69 points. I think we'll be fine on the MCG, keeping Fremantle to a low score. It's just, can we improve on our forward 50 entries, combat their pressure? They're not a high pressure side or anything like that, but they also don't keep it up either for a long time. But they are due for a win in Victoria, and they are known for taking that big scalp.
They get momentum. They get momentum plays, don't they? They get, I know all teams have that, but they're one side in particular where if they get a little bit of a run on, they're almost wherever they play, they're very hard to stop. It's very similar to the way that I think Adelaide do that as well, quite well. But obviously, they're a bit better than Freo. Prediction. Personally, before we get to that, I think it happens a lot of the weeks, but I think it's how we can get the ball into our forward 50, whether it's through our defence or whether it's through our midfield. Just make sure those deliveries are 100%, because if our forward 50 entries are shit, even though they haven't got the world's greatest defence, we tend to push up quite high, and I just don't want to get caught over the back because their mids, if they get it, they're off. So I think
100%.
that's something. I think that's something that we've really got to watch there. Before we get to the predictions, can you just give everybody a bit of a shout out here to yourself? Because Hatters wants to know. Sorry, that's not that one there. This one here. He wants to know. He goes, "Can you get Nate to tell us his X or Twitter handle?" Don't have Twitter.
I got a burner account. You will never find it. And that's the same with my social medias as well. I'm very sporadic with how I use social media. I find it to be a bit toxic. So
just follow him on YouTube. That's it.
YouTube. You found my Instagram, by the way, but they'll remain secretive. A loose exclusive, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Just get on his YouTube channel. 100% there. All right. What's predictions for the Freo game? Give me your best on. Give me best on ground, leading goal kicker, the team who wins, and the margin. Go best on ground first for Collingwood.
Well, I think you've given me mine prior to this, which you'll explain or you'll say in a few minutes. But you basically stole mine, so I have to think of another one. I think
you can say it. You can say it. It's fine. It's your opinion, mate.
I'm going to change it up. The best on ground for me will be Dacos. Josh Dacos, that is. I think you have 30 plus disposals. I think he will be utilised a little bit more in the midfield, more attacking. I think he'll be linking up a lot more with Nick Dacos. Think of that round 24 game last year with Melbourne. They both had 40 disposals each. I'm not expecting that sort of game from both, but I think Josh Dacos will have a better game here. I don't think Nick Dacos will be in it. I think he'll be tagged out of it, but Josh Dacos, best on ground. Most goals. I said Dan McStay was in for a big game last week. He owes me, so I'm expecting Dan McStay to have 4 goals in this game.
Yeah, I think he owes everybody just quietly. So, yeah.
He's all right. He one bad game, but he owes me personally. What was the other one? The
who wins and the margin?
Well, we'll win. Conservatively, though, 20 points.
Okay, so we're about the same with that one there. So my one, I've got BOG's Jamie Elliott, and I think that's because Jamie Elliott is going to kick 5 goals against Fremantle. I think he's going to absolutely tear their defence an asshole, or a new asshole, I should say. I do think we will win this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I saw some comments here saying someone said Peter G here said 4 to 5 goals. I would love that. I would love that to be the case. I'm thinking more 2 to 3 goals. I'm tipping the Pies by 17 points against Fremantle. Just quickly jump to some of the comments here. Quickly, Hatters also said he goes with Howe out. Need Josh's dynamic play from half-back. I think he will play mostly half-back, but I think they will, as we said, rotate him through the midfield at times. I think that will definitely happen. We've got here, Ben say he goes, don't know about that, Mick, but I reckon he'll be right for the Richmond. Oh, he was talking about someone else there getting arrested again. Yeah, that's fine. I think he's talking about Lipinski. Howe needs, he goes here, Howe needs to adjust his warm-up and pay attention to this.
He is 35 years old, and just with managing our players, we've got Brisbane at the start of August and a 5-day break against Hawthorn. So that's another contentious fixture where we're going to likely be resting multiple players. It's going to be a risk to Jeremy Howe will be right for Brisbane, but to back that up 5 days later, I'm a little bit worried about that.
Hatters has got us here by 19 points, so we're all roughly around the same sort of thing. I said last week that I think Collingwood would win by 6 points, but I said I'm expecting it to be 6 points either way. I should have just tipped Gold Coast. I should have gone with my head. I've too much with my heart, man. ESC Australia says here, last time we played Freo, no McStay and no Myercheck. We're definitely going to have both of them playing against Freo this week, which would be good. I really do think the MCG helps us with the width of the ground. And I do think that it helps the Triple M's work better because they can be sort of more, in the middle of the forward 50 leading up towards the half-forward flank when you got the smalls sort of coming out here. And then speaking of the smalls here, Mick Saka, he's gone. Shooter, Bo, and Bobby buzzing around. He's our ticket to the flag. I reckon it's our ticket to winning against Fremantle because I reckon they're all going to be in just quietly. I even think Bobby will probably come in. Bo, they said he's pretty much right to go soon. The one, though, before we finish this thing up, The one that I'm really interested to see is if Frampton's back in, because if Frampton comes back in the back line, our whole defence and our structure is completely changed and for the better, I think. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it'd be Darcy Moore, Frampton taking on Tracy and Amos. I'd love to see Braden Maynard against Patrick Voss. If they scrap on one in a fight, just leave them do it.
Yeah, just let them go in the corner, sort it out. Yeah, that's it.
That's I'm paying my ticket to see that only. Once they fight, once that's done, I'm heading out.
Well, Hannah said here that Frampton trained fully today, so I've seen
fully today.
Yes. Oh, Nick Dacos didn't do match sim. That's the only thing. Apparently,
I saw that. That does worry me. My speech impediment worries me as well. But everyone else, Bobby Hill, he was smiling. Jordan Nagoe, it's probably the best I've seen him in months with those training videos. McCreary's training with midfielders. Frampton surprisingly training fully. I know it's a calf injury, but if he's right, let him play. And we've got Lipinski and Mychek coming back in. That's at least, that's 4, 5, 6 changes there.
All right, last one here that we're just going to quickly look at is Sean from Ultimate Greatness said, just need to bank the wins. I think I think that's the most important thing at the moment for us moving forward now to get that top 2 spot. I think now that's the next thing. Where we know that we've qualified for finals. We know that realistically we should finish top 4, regardless if that's not 100% just yet. It will be within the next week or 2. But I really think we've just got to make sure, regardless if we finish first or second, it doesn't matter. You just got to get that home qualifying final and set yourself up for that passage to go straight into, having 3 finals at the G in front of your crowd and all being a home game sort of thing is something pretty special. I think that we sort of really need to focus on. So just before we finish up, we're going to do the bold call of the week, which is brought to you by Hopper Bros Barbecue. For all your tips and tricks, make sure you give them a follow on Instagram. My bold call of the week is, this is not just Collingwood related. This is all AFL related in general. My bold call of the week this week is the lack of promotion for the AFLW. You got to, I know I'm not an AFLW fan, but considering all the stuff that's happened, like in the last couple of weeks in the Herald Sun, saying how it's costing the AFL $50 million and all this type of crap and blah, blah, blah. My bold call of the week is start promoting it, start doing curtain raises, start, change the structure of the season, do whatever, because you can't, I don't care personally because I'm not a watcher of it, but if you think from a promotion side of things or whatever it is, at least if you're going to announce today that tickets now go on sale and stuff like that, don't give it a slight little 5-minute little block on SEN, pump it up on the TV and stuff like that, because there are people who do like it. So I want to see more. I want to see more of that this week. If you want to do it properly. Give us some of that at least. So
yeah. My bold call for the week might be a little bit easy, but there's not been a game that's been over 100 points this year. I think we'll see that this week.
Ooh, who? This is a good one. Tell me who.
That's the thing. I won't tell who. I reckon just one of the 9 games will be over 100 points.
Oh, okay. Just in general, you reckon it's happening?
Yeah, I got a gut feeling though. It could be Sydney over North. Sydney needs that percentage to stay in it. North, they're disappointed off that loss to Melbourne. And I think they're not overdue, but their last major loss was against Carlton. That was pretty bad. I think they're coming up to another big loss coming up. So that's probably the one. I was thinking maybe Hawks over Port, but Hawks have been a little bit shocking. GWS
that's the grudge match. That's the grudge match this one. That's going to be very entertaining this week. Actually, while we're here, before we finish up, let's just quickly go through the round. Fuck it, while we're here, let's do a little bit of a preview for the round. I'll just grab my AFL fixture up here so you can give me your tips quickly, because there's still people watching, and this has been a fucking hit, this show. I'm telling you that much. Make sure you guys give the video a like and stuff like that too, to get the algorithm peaking on a Tuesday night. So let's get to it. Thursday night, you've got Essendon and GWS. Obviously, GWS in this one here. Essendon, I don't think they're going to be able to field a team. So
They're going to ask me to play for them next week.
I shouldn't feel sorry for him, but it's just like it's Essendon. Who cares? But at the same time, they are getting pretty slapped by it. If there was going to be 100-point win, I reckon that might be close to it. Just quietly, I reckon that's going to be who people think Peter G's, because I think GWS beat Essendon by close to 100. Hatters.
Well, they beat them by 21 goals 2 years ago.
That's true. Friday, you've got Lions versus the Dogs. That's going to be a very interesting game.
I have a question for you. In terms of Collingwood perspective, who do you want to see win that game, Brisbane or the Bulldogs?
Oh, Brisbane, 100%. The Dogs match up so well against us. It's not funny. I reckon we've got Brisbane covered. But I reckon the Dogs.
But then Brisbane closed the gap on us if they beat the Dogs.
Yeah, but then if we win 3-0, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
I know, fair enough, but just thinking of a plan B or a backup there.
As long as there's a breathing space between us and third spot, I'll be happy, because I don't want the away qualifying final. Hawthorn Port
Adelaide's grand final.
Yeah, I think Hawks get that done in Tassie quite easily, just quietly.
There'll be a report in that game.
Yeah, for sure. Gidevan will punch on with probably Hinkley on the boundary line. If Hinkley coaches from the bench. Sydney, North Melbourne.
That's probably the game I'm leaning towards being 100 points.
North paying $7. This is like a certainty for tipping.
Yeah. Even though North have had some good upset wins against Sydney up there, they're not going to do it this time around.
Yeah. Brody Grundy's killing it. How good's Grundy playing? Grundy's turned into 2021 or 2022 Grundy, wherever it was.
Well, he has to play well. He's still on our books.
Well, 2019 Grundy. Only for 2 more, only to the end of 2027. And then
Trelaw's off our books.
Trelaw's already off our books now, I think so.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure this might be the last season, or it was last season.
I think this is the last year, just $300,000, I think. But I don't
and
set up for us.
This year was the last season that Hawthorn had to pay for Tom Mitchell, the last little bit of Tom Mitchell's contract as well. So, all right. So then we've got here, which is like, I mean, as much as I don't give a shit about this game, it's actually a really interesting Carlton versus Melbourne at the MCG on a Saturday night.
I'll raise the question: who gets sacked Sunday morning?
Probably Charlie Curnow if he has to kick a goal just quietly.
That's an interesting defense as well. I think May and Lever are both fit for that game. So if he can't kick a goal, Charlie Curnow, then
I think Melbourne win this game by about 25 points, I reckon. And then we got the grand final this week, the absolute blockbuster, West Coast versus Richmond. Because Richmond beat Essendon, though, this is actually very interesting if Richmond get up.
I'm actually tipping the Eagles, and I'm not giving that a second thought. I reckon the Eagles will get up for that.
So I think because it's in Perth, West Coast win. If it was at the G, I'd be tipping Richmond in this game, even though Richmond have got a few outs. But if Richmond win, they actually jump. They'll jump North Melbourne. So that's going to be very interesting. Geelong St Kilda at GMHBA.
That's another one that could be 100 points.
That's another one could be 100 points, but I just got this. I know I'm going to eat my words. I'm going to look stupid by saying this. This has got one of those upset of the years about it. When Geelong lose that, one game that they shouldn't lose against the side, it's probably GWS. It was probably them. But I hope. Don't forget, St Kilda pants Geelong at Marvel Stadium. Yeah,
but that's at Marvel.
Geelong will win this game, but I don't know. I'll probably get people sending me messages saying, St Kilda got done. Probably. PIES and Freo have gone over. And obviously, and this one here is probably, what a game to finish off the round of footy. Adelaide and Gold Coast. That's you never would have thought in a million years you'd be saying that Adelaide and Gold Coast could potentially be game of the round. But this is huge. like this game. I think Adelaide will win, but mate, if Gold Coast get up on this game, yeah, that completely changes the whole concept of the top 8.
Mac Andrew and Riley Thilthorpe going at it, opening bounce.
Mm.
Gold Coast, they needed another statement win. Adelaide's on a good run. Who would have thought 2 big Sunday games for once? Last week's Sunday games were shocking. I didn't even watch those games.
Mm.
So big Sunday games. Yeah.
Did you see some of that game between Essendon and Richmond?
No, so I actually watched Freo Hawthorn just to study on Freo.
Okay. So
I was told if you want to torture yourself, go watch Richmond Essendon.
So I was told the very similar thing from my mate Bryce, who was texting me, and then I turned it over to that game in the last quarter. And even though it was a shit game, the last quarter was actually very entertaining. And then I was able then to flick it over to the other game and watch the other game, the end of that one too, which was fantastic. That pretty much wraps us up for tonight's show. I've had an absolute blast having you on. You are more than welcome to jump on. In fact, I will probably get you on closer towards the end of the season. And we can dissect everything that's happened up until then. But any final words? Did you want to give your YouTube channel a shout out while you're here?
I actually won't give my channel a shout out. I think pretty self-explanatory. Just a thing about me as well. I am very superstitious. We are coming on after we've just lost at Gold Coast. So if you do plan to have me on in future videos, I want to make sure it's a win. If you plan to have me on in future videos and it turns out to be a loss, then I might have to start looking or just having to back off a bit. But no, I love your channel, Andreas. I actually love some of your reviews where you start off with not giving out the stats and whatnot. It's actually a good relief for me. So nice to have your casual, free opinions on it.
I think it's more you get like just on that too. And I know, some people have actually sent me inboxes on Instagram and like said, and they've thrown stats and stuff like that at me. Like I'm happy, like if I'm trying to bring up a point and I need a stat to back it up, no worries, I'll use it. But from a fan's point of view, there's so many different YouTube channels on, not like for all clubs, not just Collingwood, but for Collingwood, you've got, you've got a few big ones on there, like Swoop Luke and Anth from PIES Footy and stuff like that. And everybody's got their own, and even like the PIES Nation podcast, which I love that channel, everybody's got their own different sort of take on it. I don't feel like it's necessary to throw out all the stats and stuff like that because my channel is I'm literally, and I do it on my sign-offs, I'm calling it how I see it. This is how I see it, whether I'm at the game, at the G most weeks or wherever, or watching it from home. Like, this is what I'm seeing. I'm telling you, and I'm giving you sort of the perspective of how it feels from a Collingwood supporter as opposed to reading a stat sheet. I'll leave that to the coaches to tell the players on what's going on there. But look, the response has been really good so far this season. I'm almost at 12 months doing it now, and I never thought in 12 months I'd be doing the lives and stuff like that. I thought it was just videos and stuff like that. But it's been good. There's a lot more to go. Hopefully it's a successful season, and there's heaps of content to come towards the end of the season, and it's not mellow and disappointing, and it's actually something that we can celebrate and look forward to. But on your channel, mate, your reviews are so straight to the point. I find that refreshing. Like, it's just like, no, bang, this is it, blah, blah, blah. You give it out straight away. I'm working at the bobbleheads behind you on who's who because it's a bit further away. I've got the Darcy Moore one, but the Darcy Moore looks like Mark Blitzarves.
No, 100%. It looks exactly like him.
My son's moved mine. I usually have it here. He's moved it over there, and he's replaced it with his fucking dummy here, right? But the Darcy Moore bobblehead from Kmart looks like Mark Blitzarves from Geelong.
Got to go with it, unfortunately. He's holding up a Premiership Cup, so I got him.
That's it.
Got the Dacos brothers, Darcy Moore, Braden Maynard. I got him after he signed that 4-year extension. Scott Pendlebury speaks for itself, and Bobby Hill, the Norm Smith medal Bobby head. So I'll get the Jamie Elliott one. Hopefully he signs another 2-year extension, or if he wins the Coleman, I'll definitely get it. If Nick Dacos wins the Brownlow, I'll get it. If we get a Norm Soups medalist, I'll get that as well. But yeah, thank you for having me on.
Awesome.
If anyone's interested in creating a YouTube channel or whatever, I'm not going to say just be yourself. All I would say is just own your niche. We've been just waffling on about how we started and what makes us good, what makes us tick and what makes us good and what not.
Yeah.
Whatever you're good at, what's your personality, what makes your friends love you, or what it is that you're knowledgeable about, own it, own your niche. It will come. It does take a lot of luck, but a lot of hard work as well. Hopefully we have more Collingwood YouTube content creators, not just in YouTube, but also on social media. We are a fickle bunch, but we can be a knowledgeable bunch. We do support each other
100%.
side by side. I thought what Collingwood did with your mate, Daniel, with the Premiership Cup, side by side.
Man.
We're loyal to the end.
Yeah, that was unbelievable today. Like we didn't even know. And then one of my mates has rocked up and he's opened up his boot. And then I've just seen him pull it out. I'm like, you're kidding me. Like he would have absolutely loved this. And then as I was taking him out, like that, they raised it and stuff like that. But it is what it is. Thank you so much, Nate, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been a fantastic show. The preview, my full preview for the Fremantle game will be up in a couple of days. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.